July 29th, 1588. 130 Spanish warships stretch the English Channel. Cannons thunder across the water, and sailors scream orders while cannonballs punch through oak and men alike. This is the Spanish Armada. 30,000 soldiers, 2,500 cannons, and the fate of Protestant England hanging by a thread. But let's change one thing. 40,000 feet above the chaos is something no one understands. A twin-engine F-15E Strike Eagle from 2024 dropped into a battle it was never meant to fight. So what happens when the most advanced fighter bomber on Earth is unleashed during the 16th century's largest naval battle? Can it stop the Spanish in their tracks? Or is it just one jet against an entire armada? First, let's talk about what exactly is lurking in the clouds above the English Channel. The F-15E Strike Eagle is a 40-ton war machine built to dominate both air and ground. It screams through the sky at Mach 2.5. That's 1,900 miles per hour, or roughly 50 times faster than the fastest ship below. Its service ceiling tops 60,000 feet, meaning it can cruise nearly 12 miles above the ocean where the air is too thin to breathe, and 16th century weapons are about as threatening as harsh language. The jet carries an M61 Vulcan 20mm cannon that spits 6,000 rounds per minute. One 3-second burst sends 300 tungsten rounds downrange, enough to shred sails, snap masts, and turn wooden decks into splinters. But the real devastation comes from its payload. Up to 24,500 pounds of ordnance, including laser-guided bombs, cluster munitions, and precision J-dams that can drop roughly a chimney from 15,000 feet. Its APG-70 radar can track ships from over 100 miles away, while infrared targeting pods let the crew see heat signatures through fog, darkness, or the thick black smoke of burning galleons. The Strike Eagle is crewed by two, a pilot and a weapons system officer, so one flies while the other picks targets. In 1588, this thing might as well be a dragon, but it might not be as simple as you think. The F-15E is here alone. No tankers, no resupply, no spare parts. If something breaks, it stays broken. If the bombs run out, that's it. The crew has maybe 4 hours of flight time, a finite number of explosives, and are facing 130 ships. Meanwhile, the Spanish Armada isn't just big. It's the largest invasion fleet Europe has ever seen. King Philip II has assembled his floating empire, massive galleons bristling with bronze cannons, packed with soldiers trained to board and overwhelm. The fleet sails in a defensive crescent formation, big warships in the center, faster vessels protecting the flanks. It's designed to be unbreakable, and so far, it has been. Each ship carries Marines ready to cut down anything in their way. Their tactics are simple: close the distance, grapple the enemy, and let superior numbers do the rest. Spanish crews have been drilling for months under the Duke of Medina Sidonia. They've memorized every signal flag, every maneuver, every enemy. Today, there's a jet. Dawn breaks over the channel. The Armada holds formation, waiting for the Duke of Parma's army to arrive from Flanders. Spanish lookouts scan the horizon for English sails. They don't think to look up. At 45,000 feet, the Strike Eagle's WSO studies his radar screen. The entire Spanish fleet appears as a constellation of green dots creeping northeast. He marks the largest signatures: flagships, supply vessels, and troop transports. The pilot banks gently, lining up an approach from the rising sun. The Spanish never see it coming. The first 2,000-pound J-dam drops silently through the morning air, guided by internal navigation toward the Armada's flagship. Medina Sidonia is reviewing the charts when the bomb punches through the deck and detonates in the powder magazine. The galleon doesn't just sink. A column of fire and splinters erupts 200 feet into the air. Ships nearby rock violently in the blast wave. For several seconds, no one in the Armada understands what happened. Then a second explosion tears through a supply vessel. Then a third. Panic is the only thing that spreads faster than the flames. Spanish sailors scan the sky and see nothing but clouds and a distant glinting speck that moves too fast and too high. Some think it's a bird. Others cross themselves and pray. The more superstitious whisper about English witchcraft, Protestant demons sent to devour the faithful. The Strike Eagle makes another pass. This time, the pilot drops to 5,000 feet for a strafing run, its Vulcan cannon roaring to life. 20mm rounds rake across a galleon's deck at 100 rounds per second. Sailors are cut down before they can reach their stations. The main mast topples without much of a fight, and a second ship catches part of the burst through its waterline and begins taking in seawater. But here's where it gets complicated. The F-15E has been in the air for 90 minutes. Fuel is down to 60%. The crew has expended half their bombs and a third of their cannon ammunition. They've destroyed perhaps a dozen ships and damaged twice that many, devastating by any measure, but the Armada still has over 100 vessels, and the Spanish aren't stupid. They're terrified, yes, but they're also adapting. The tight crescent formation scatters as captains realize clustering together makes them easier targets. Ships begin sailing in random directions, some toward England, others back toward open water. The fleet spreads across miles of ocean, forcing the jet to choose targets rather than hit concentrations. Worse, the weather is turning. Clouds roll in from the Atlantic, the same storm system that will historically doom the Armada. For the Strike Eagle, this is a problem. Low cloud cover means flying lower to acquire targets visually. Flying lower means more fuel consumption. It also means getting closer to something the crew hasn't considered: sheer dumb luck. A Spanish gunner on the San Martin sees the jet streak past at 2,000 feet and does what any desperate man would do. He fires his cannon straight up. The shot misses by a quarter mile, but the principle's established. Get low enough and even a 16th century weapon has a chance. The pilot pulls back to altitude. They're down to 3 bombs and maybe 200 cannon rounds. The WSO runs calculations. At current consumption, they can stay on station another hour before they need to find somewhere to land. And where exactly does an F-15E land in 1588? A sheep pasture in Kent? For the next 45 minutes, the Strike Eagle hunts priority targets, troop transports, ammunition ships, anything that looks like command and control. The jet swoops through gaps in the clouds, drops ordnance, and climbs back to safety before Spanish gunners can react. The psychological effect is total. Captains who've never retreated in their lives are now ordering full sail away from the battle. Some ships collide in the chaos, others run aground on sandbars they'd normally avoid. The Duke of Medina Sidonia is dead, his flagship atomized, and the Armada has become a mob. By noon, the Strike Eagle is out of bombs, nearly out of cannon ammunition, and its fuel gauge creeps toward empty. The pilot turns east toward England, looking for anything flat enough to land on. So, could a modern jet topple the Spanish Armada? Yes and no. The F-15E sinks or cripples 25 to 30 Spanish ships directly. More importantly, it decapitates Spanish command, breaks their formation, and keeps them from being the invincible Armada the world fears. The invasion is finished before it ever really started. But the jet only had 1 tank of fuel, 1 loadout. The crew is now stranded in Elizabethan England, about to spend the rest of their lives explaining the future to people who still think the sun revolves around the earth. Or what do you think would happen? And if you're curious what would happen if a modern jet fought at Pearl Harbor, check out the video on screen now. Thanks for watching.